Hello and welcome to Grim 3D. Today we are going to save some money with 3D printing by recreating this lighting fixture. Stay tuned. So as you can see, this lighting fixture, this cover here, is actually pretty brittle. It's been breaking quite a bit lately. I really don't want to look all over town for a new piece of plastic. I'm not even sure that it would fit. This is pretty old, it came with the house, so it's been here a while. And it's had plenty of time to degrade and get very brittle. So today we are going to redesign this, print it out of some clear PETG, so stay with me for the step-by-step. So I've taken the plastic out. This is actually a recessed can style of light, and so this ring has the little clips here that hold it up into the ceiling. I really want to be able to diffuse the light that's up in there and make it a little bit softer. So I'm thinking some clear PETG will do the job for us. And I want it to be kind of strong, so PETG works with that as well. I think it's going to be a pretty easy redesign. I'm just going to have to take some measurements. Hopefully I'll be able to print it on the bed this way, and the only thing I really have to worry about is the height here, the diameter here, and then this little ridge that holds this plastic piece in the recessed lighting ring. So let's get going. So first, some measurements. I'm just going to use this notepad right here, this notebook I got from Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to find it. I really have been enjoying this grid of just dots. I don't know if you can see that. So it's like graph paper, but there are only dots. So that's kind of cool. They're not really that hard to find. And I have my piece here that I want to recreate, and I have this is a fairly cheap set of calipers from just Harbor Freight. I'm sure you can find them other places. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and draw a small, doesn't have to be big, but I can follow the lines, the dots on my pad. I want to draw a small representation of this from the side, like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab some measurements really quick. So I want to know that this, where it meets the metal ring, is basically 128 millimeters. I'm going to add a little bit to that to make sure that it fits where it's supposed to. This was originally kind of a loose fit in the metal ring, so I think if we go with 129 we should be all right. That's pretty clear. So right here we've got, and try to draw this upside down for you, 129. All right, so then we've got our height here, which is not really critical, but I'm going to get it as close as I can just because I want to. So my height there is roughly 30 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one at 30. And then the important part right here, this ridge, so that it hangs onto the metal ring, which I think I am going to actually not print with a right angle like this, because that would require me to use supports, and I don't want to use supports on this one. I'm going to actually create that on a 45 So it should sit in the metal ring just the way it normally did on top of that 45, but then my printer will be able to print straight up through here and make something looks maybe like that on the edge. So I am going to measure overall how wide is this. So I've got 135 millimeters. So from basically here to here, this direction, I have this at 135 millimeters, which means that this right here basically sticks out 3 millimeters. And then the part here that raises up is not really that critical, but it comes up basically, so this right here is basically 5 millimeters. So now that we have some basic drawing down, this basic idea of what we're doing, let's go ahead and get over to the computer and start designing it. So here I have a new file in my Design Spark Mechanical. I'm going to go ahead and start working with some circles. I am going to start with the bottom of this light fixture object that I'm creating. I am going to put a little bit of taper between the very bottom of it and the top where it goes into the metal ring. So I'm going to start with a circle of 129 millimeters, just like I had on my paper. And then, remember, this is the outside diameter. I need to have an inside diameter. So I think that I'll probably make this 2 millimeters thick all the way around. So I'm going to subtract 4 from 129. That's 2 for each side. And I'm going to go with 125. So there's 2 millimeters. And then I am going to go ahead and pull this outside up to my full height of 35 millimeters. And I'm going to pull this bottom part up to 2 millimeters so that I have what I'm looking for in the 2 millimeter thickness all the way around. Then I need to create my ridge that hangs this into the metal ring. So I'm going to go ahead and create another circle. I'm going to create it on this plane up here. From the center out, it needs to be 135 millimeters, if you remember our measurement. So there's a 3 millimeter overhang on either side. And then this is going to get pulled. I'm going to pull this one and this one up 5 millimeters. I don't need the center one, so I'm going to delete it. And then I am going to create a bevel right here so that I can be able to print this without support. So I've got a 45-degree bevel right there. I think my printer can probably handle that. I am going to then taper this edge, which you do with the pivot edge function over here. I'm going to pull this in probably about 2 millimeters, which it has not pulled in the inside, my 2 millimeters, so I'm going to need to do that. So I'm going to go with a pull on the inside, taper that, and I'm going to pull it in 2 millimeters to match. One more check on the cross section by setting up my drawing plane. And there I have basically the outline that I want to create out of PETG. I do think that I will dress this up just a bit on the bottom by doing a pull on the bottom and creating a rounded edge there of maybe 3 millimeters, and then a matching one out here, which in order to match that we'll probably have to go with 4 millimeters. And then I'm going to check my cross section again to make sure that right here on the edge I have a nice even curve. We are still seeing 2 millimeters worth of thickness to go ahead and print this out of clear PETG. I'm going to save this file, and then I'll have to of course save it as an STL. And I have my Design Spark Mechanical set for fine grain or fine detail STL, so that should be pretty easy. I may actually have to turn on supports to get this curve done correctly, but I'm not super concerned about that because the support shouldn't end up anywhere else except on this curve to help that stay curvy. So there you have it. That's my design process. It seems to look pretty good, pretty simple. Should do just fine. Here I have opened Slick 3R or Slicer PE Prusa Edition. Since I already have the clear PETG already loaded in the Prusa, I'm going to go ahead and print my file out on the Prusa, which should do a pretty good job. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my STL. There it is. Fits on the bed just fine. Looks pretty fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and set this up with my quality being 0.2 millimeter, which should be fine. I am using the Prusament PETG profile, which has worked really well for me, even though the PETG I'm using is the Maker series from Maker Geeks. This Prusament PETG profile has been doing a pretty good job for me. I am going to turn on supports to the build plate only and do a preliminary slice, see what I get. Over to the preview. As I suspected, it did not put any supports to my 45-degree angle, even with the basic settings, but it did throw some supports down at the bottom. Let's take a look at those a little bit more closely. This is just the default profile on the supports. And it actually looks like it's not throwing down a whole lot of support. So far I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to go ahead and check my other settings. 0.2, 2 perimeters is fine. Solid layers, infill, 15% I'm sure will work just fine. Skirt, I always like it to do 2 loops to prime that, and if I have it do skirt height of 2 layers, it's pretty easy to just pick off with your fingernail when it's cooled off. Support material, yes, I'm good with that. The speeds are okay. I did stick with the 0.2 millimeter quality, which is kind of new in the newer versions of Prusa edition here. So it prints a little bit slower, but I'm expecting and hoping that it will give me a really nice outer shell. That would be fantastic. I really need, these are my heat settings. Those are just standard. I haven't changed any of these. But I do need for the Octoprint to make sure that my lift on Z is set for 1 because that's what Octoprint is expecting. It really doesn't seem to hurt me too bad to change that. It does create maybe a little bit extra stringing, but I'm just going to take care of that with a heat gun later, so it's not a big deal. So yeah, there I have it. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to send this to Prusa Diffusa. I'll see you on the printer. Looks like this is going to take about 7 hours to print. Not too bad. Well, there you have it. A little bit of stringing. I did cut the supports off the bottom there, but I think it looks pretty nice. Here's the old one. There's the new one. Pretty easy, pretty simple build, pretty simple design. But I want to check 2 things before we go. Number 1, I want to check what a light looks like behind it. So I just happen to have a bulb here that's about the same style of bulb that this light that goes in this light. Okay, there it's on. We'll see what this looks like behind there. Pretty nice, pretty soft light. Pretty easy to handle. Okay, same light. I don't know, maybe we can't see this with the hole in it, but same light underneath the original. That's the original light cover. That's the new light cover. So, not a big difference, not too bad. Looks pretty nice. Last thing I want to check is to see that this fits in the metal frame that holds it to the ceiling, to the can. I just set it in there, weasel it in, and look at that. Absolutely beautiful. What a deal. It fits in there pretty decent. A little bit of slop, that's okay. I can bend those little metal tabs down to hold it in if I want. They should be right on top of it. It should be just fine. Absolutely beautiful. Well, that's it for Grim 3D, but before we go, one last note. I had some of my subscribers tell me that the lighting that I was using was washing out my face, making me look all sick. So I'm trying a new filter today. If you like it, comment down below. As always, keep the comments civil. Subscribe if you want. Smash that like button. Ring the bell. We'll see you out there.